Good evening and welcome to another exciting meeting of the Charlton Water and Sewer Commission. Today is January 28th, 2019, and we're pretty much on time at about 6:30. We'll start the meeting as usual. First I gotta ask anybody here for public forum. Seeing no one, we'll start off with reading the warrants and abatements.
Okay, I have the minutes for January 7th. Do I have a motion to accept them?
You have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on January 7th? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstain.
Warrants for review and signature, LaFord Electric, $175. Cosgrove and Black, $117. Cosgrove and Black, $45. McClure Engineering, $925. Franklin Electric, $366.58. Osterman Propane, $2,698.20. Mighty Duct, $1,175. Franklin Electric, $1,099.73. Beta, $459.98. Viola, $5,005. Viola, $184. Viola, $240. And Beta, $10,754.44 for a total of $2,244.93.
Got a second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion on any of them? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And we have senior abatements. Those are all okay. For flat rate accounts, for a total of $377.69. For a flat rate of senior abatements, I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second
Any discussion on either of them? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And senior abatements for metered accounts, I have for October to December, I make a motion that we accept $304.62.
I'll second
Any discussion on that? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 it. Aye.
Abstain.
Have you more?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, then we'll go right into our scheduled appointments. The first up, and the only one up tonight actually, is Veolia with the monthly operating report. And I see Zach, John, and Keith here. Please come forward and talk to us.
Excuse me, Chairman, would it be all right if I grab the chair?
Yeah, sure.
Forget you said.
Good evening to the commission. This is the monthly operating report for December of 2018. There was no health and safety incidents or accidents. The monthly safety checklist was completed. December's training was provided by J.J. Keller Online Safety Training. The topic was on bloodborne pathogens, safety in the workplace. And under compliance, there were no MPDES permit exceedances in the month of December. We received the results for our quarterly toxicity testing, and we met the permit limits. I have attached the plant performance report. And under operation and maintenance activities, the weekly and monthly maintenance checklist was completed. The weekly generator full load exercise was completed with no issues. And all the preventative maintenance work orders were completed. The monthly plant critical alarms were tested. There were no issues, which is the influent high flow alarm, headworks building, high level sump pit, the high core unit equipment failure, and the EQ tank high and low level switches. On December 12th, we put in some temporary safety barriers up on the RBCs 1 and 2 so that there's no covers, so we didn't want anybody to be able to fall or slip into the RBCs. The RBCs have been tested. We're just waiting on 2 pumps that are going to be used as the mixers on the influent box because we don't have those pad alarms that were on there at one point. So as soon as we receive those pumps and we put them in, we're gonna start to seed the RBCs, both of them, 1 and 2. And under the pump station activities, all the pump station alarm tests were completed. Pump station weekly full load generator tests were completed. The MTAs were sampled on December 6th and December 17th. On December 9th, we had a power failure at Vine Street Pump Station. When we arrived on site, the power was already restored. There was no issues with the generator. And on December 15th, we had a low-level alarm at Glen Echo Shore Drive Pump Station. Everything was fine when we got on site. And under collection system activities, on December 24th, we had a grinder pump call at 1 Sunset Drive for a high-level alarm. The pump on float was held down with debris. The debris was removed and the system was tested okay. And this was an upgraded system. On December 24th, again, we had a grinder pump call at 235 Sunset Drive for a pump failure with the maintenance light on. Upon arrival, we were not able to access the grinder pump system as the resident had built a deck over the wet well, so we were unable to pull the pump. The homeowner made modifications to the deck for access, and then after troubleshooting, it was determined the system needed to be upgraded. For the month of December, we marked out 15 dig safes. And then the last part, the flow meter at MTA Pump Station 6W has failed. With all the parts, the cost is gonna be $2,345.80, and that's with Veolia's discount purchasing. And it does not include the installation and the instrumentation. This flow meter is used for the quarterly billing, so it is vital to have that flow meter. So I'm seeking approval to purchase the new flow meter.
There's information in the packet about it, right?
Yes, I have supplied the information from USA Blue Book. It's after the plant performance report. So it's the updated, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
This flow meter failed approximately 5 months ago.
Right.
But then it started working again. So, we just kinda went with it. I believe this is the original flow meter that came with when the pump station was installed,
That's correct.
probably
1999.
19 years ago.
There's money in the budget.
There is money in the budget, yes. If you look on the, if you go 2 sheets, or we're at, never mind, one more sheet forward, you'll see so far, this contract year, we have a surplus of $2,980 in our monthly O&M budget. If you approve it, we can just ask them to purchase it from there, or we can take it out of our own O&M account. Doesn't matter.
How about our capital account?
Sure, it's,
If there's money there to take it out as
we
well.
haven't touched capital yet this fiscal year, so there's plenty there. There's plenty in our O&M account as well. So,
What are we doing now without this working?
we're using the Southbridge meter reach for water supply to build them with.
Is there a direct correlation between,
Those
Water
two,
and sewage
those
up
two are
there?
pretty consistent, yes,
yeah, okay.
over the past.
Well, do we have a motion for a new flow meter?
Do you have a preference as to which account we take it out of?
No, it doesn't matter yet. I mean, we've been lucky with the R&M, maybe out of the capital would be the better thing to do, so that if there are smaller items that Veolia needs to purchase over the next 10 months, that surplus might get used. And it's not a recurring cost, so to take out that capital won't be a problem.
Make a motion that we purchase the required flow meter in the amount of $2,345.80 to come out of the capital account.
Second.
Any discussion on it?
which one is this? Which meter? Just the analyzer?
No, this is just a straight flow meter.
Okay.
At the pump station for 6 West, up off of J. Hammond Road.
This is an inline meter?
No, it's a Doppler.
Doppler.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Just a question, John, in your travels, the meter that we're purchasing, as far as its accuracy, how do you find them?
They're really good. In fact, we had a vendor in last week
Yes.
who makes a competing Doppler-type product, and he was just bestowing the virtues of the Doppler technology, how accurate it is, right down to very, very minor, deviance from actual
Really?
flow. So it's the right meter for this application. I don't think we need to do anything more fancy.
Okay.
It's a direct replacement, right, Keith?
Yes, it is.
And it's worked well for 19 years.
Yeah, and Peter, as superintendent, you've looked at the pros and cons of water meter versus sewer meter, that this is the most accurate for what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I've looked at the discrepancies between the history for 6W,
Yeah.
for what we get from what Southbridge bills versus what we
Right.
see from the sewer meter.
And then
That-
considering the activity that goes on there,
Yes,
that we're better off just,
yeah, this is the best way to go,
okay, good,
definitely.
good.
And we're able to apply the Veolia discount to that meter too. Do you know what that savings was? Again, it's a vendor that Veolia negotiates better pricing that we pass on to the commission.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And then the next portion is in regards to the phosphax analyzer. As we did more research, it was determined that the phosphax SC does not need to be calibrated because the reagents and the photometer are stable. There's no manual calibration. So that's what we have there in regards to that, and Mr. Oatley supplied a letter in regards to what the discount would be to the town for the purchase of the analyzer. And I also included what it would have been for a service technician to come out. It would be $2,712.38, which we're already doing the maintenance per the O&M manual. We clean the filters, we flush the cells.
Yeah, the idea was to basically, my understanding wasn't at the meeting, was to bring out the service technician to make sure the meter was okay and calibrated. The meter doesn't require calibration, and the limited amount of maintenance that's done, we do internally, so to spend $2,800 to have someone come out just seemed kind of, so in talking with Peter, we basically said, well, let's just, forego that, but split that cost and apply it, half of it to a discount to the overall price of the unit if the commission were to want to purchase it. It just didn't make sense to spend $2,800 for them to not do anything that we're not currently doing. So,
What's it read, John?
it reads orthophosphate. It basically measures how well the COMAG system's functioning. It's our last line of defense if we have any sort of phosphorus bleed through.
Yep.
Because by the time we pick it up in a composite sampler, it's already too late. It's an online instrument that tells you that you're in compliance all the time. We installed it as part of, when we got here, simply because that parameter is too valuable to not know what's going out every day. It's basically what the COMAG system was designed for, but there's really there was no online analyzer as part of that installation. We felt it's necessary to have one. How do you know it's functioning until it's too late, basically? Every other treatment process that we have in place, there's some indication that you're in compliance, whether it's pH, UV, things like that. But for phosphorus, which is, again, what you made the investment in the COMAG system for, there wasn't any provision for online analyzer. Hawk makes a very robust and accurate phosphax analyzer, which is in place in almost all of our facilities that remove phosphorus. And so we installed one at our cost in Charlton, simply because we felt it was.
Is
Too
that
crazy.
SCADA?
It isn't yet. It has its own audible alarm, but,
Yeah.
again, we put it in because we were taking over a plant that, we hadn't had any history with, and we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance all the time. I think the long-term option would be to tie it into SCADA and alarm it, just like we have other alarms like pH. But again, that would be at the direction, or the request of us, but at the authorization of the commission.
So the original, you approved this purchase already, maybe 3 or 4 meetings ago, based on the premise that they were gonna have it calibrated after the 1-year anniversary, and then we were gonna purchase it. The original authorization was for $9,809 and change, and to use the surplus from last contract year's R&M budget to offset that. And again, like John said, after seeing the cost to have someone fly out from California to calibrate it, it didn't seem necessary. So we talked about splitting the difference, and the cost for the analyzer came down to $8,450. And over the last 6 weeks, Keith has also straightened out some other charges that are applying to the last calendar year agreement R&M budget, which leaves us, I believe, the new and final surplus that we got today was $1,000, $1,022.18. So that leaves a final charge to us for the phosphax analyzer of $7,427.82, if you wanted to purchase it. And again, because it's proven to be worthwhile to Veolia to have there, it seems to make sense that we should have it there for us, so if something does happen and we have someone else come in to operate, it'll be there for the future operator as well if Veolia is not here in the future.
Did we already vote to purchase
Yes.
this? We already voted.
You voted contingent upon the
Certification.
analyzer being certified and calibrated,
Okay, so.
but that process didn't take place.
So this
and-
fella from California for $2,800, he comes in and says it's certified?
He wouldn't certify it, he was going to just basically clean it like we do normally. There's not much to it, if you believe it or not. But there's no way for him to, like, say, read this. All he can do is say, if I put in a standard, it reads a standard. There's really nothing he can tweak to make it work better. We do that anyway, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it was $2,800 to just have somebody come out, do what we do, and write a letter saying it was out and everything looked okay,
Okay, and your company does this all the time?
all the time. We do it internally in Charlton,
Okay.
just like we manage,
All right.
maintain all the meters, the pH meters and things like that as well.
By knowing this pH at will, does that help us to reduce, or by using it, you either reduce, increase, or don't change the COMAG amount that you're using?
Yeah, it's not tied into any COMAG controls.
Right, I understand that.
It just allows us to have confidence that the COMAG is functioning properly. And if it were to drift, we would make appropriate steps to evaluate what's causing it. Whether it's additional chemical dosage or if there's a mechanical problem. It's just
Okay, so it's not directly related to more or less COMAG?
no, it's basically just to let us know it's our last line of defense to tell us that nothing is wrong with COMAG, downstream of COMAG. But it's not tied into anything that ramps something up or slows something down. COMAG, it wouldn't, COMAG's a different manufacturer than, they don't package them together. It really is just an alarm with a meter that trends 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it just allows us to know we're in compliance at all times, or not, if we weren't. Other than that, you have no way to know whether or not you've removed the phosphorus down to the level that's required in the permit.
But at some point in time, we do know when we do a final test.
Right,
And then
right.
it may be too late.
Exactly. You would be, you'd only find out the next day, and by that point, it's too late, where we can find out instantaneously that we got a problem and fix it. The before it creates a permit excursion.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we provide the $7,427.82 for the purchase of this piece of equipment.
I guess, Chairman, if I could say, you know, it's sort of like not having a speedometer on your car, but being held to a speed limit. You know, I think that would be the analogy I would use, you know. You want to maintain the speed, you need to know what the speed limit, what you're reading.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor, do I have a second on
I'll
that,
second.
please? Got a motion and a second, any other discussion on it? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
John, do you wanna update the commission on the RBCs?
I do, I want to update them on several things, as soon as Keith's finished with it.
That completes the report for the month of December 2018.
Do you want to discuss staffing first, last, or you want
No,
to do?
it doesn't matter.
All right, well, I guess I'll start with the RBCs and that kind of thing, and then we'll end with staffing. The commission may recall that you authorized Ty and Bond to do a headwork study where we wanted to determine what the capacity of the treatment plant was. And they came back with a bunch of recommendations to maximize the capacity of the treatment plant. One of them was getting the 2 failed RBCs online. And at the time, I think the history was that they needed to be replaced. We came out and, for a relatively small amount of money, evaluated them, got them operating. So we want to make sure those are online before the new permit season. Mechanically, they all check out. The only thing that is lacking is a cover. And that's based on years past where humidity was a big problem inside that building, creating slip hazards and mold and all sorts of things. So what we did is, as Keith described, we simply put up plywood barriers on the handrails, just to prevent anyone from actually going into the mechanical spinning of the machine, while we investigate what type of cover to put on them. Right now, the covers that you have on the existing 8 are all-weather structural covers, very expensive. I don't feel that it's necessary nor does the manufacturer actually, inside the building. Because really, they're just meant to trap humidity. They're not meant for structure. They're meant to carry snow load, wind load, rain load, any of that. And given that Ty and Bond report had a bunch of other capital items that you might want to consider, we're looking at ways to cover the RBCs relatively inexpensively, and provide, you know, not having to spend that capital. One of the ideas we have is some sort of like greenhouse type cover. So we're in the process of getting some vendors out there to take a look at what that will be. And the order of magnitude is going to be tens of thousands of dollars in savings. We know that to put 2 covers on that you have currently from the vendor is roughly $90,000. Of course, they're way overkill. You don't need them. So we're looking to see if we can't do something more modest for under $10,000. Achieve the same result, just not spend the money for a structural cover that you don't need. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. In the meantime, we're making provisions to start the RBCs and get them online before the permit season that starts in June. It phases in, right?
Yeah,
April,
step
May.
in.
Yeah. So the good news is the amount of capital needed originally, at least thought, to get the RBCs operational is significantly less than anyone anticipated, and we're confident that we can get them operational ahead of the permit season and then be in better shape to treat the ammonia load that we know we've seen, and as part of what Ty and Bond has recommended we do. I'll be, at the next meeting, be able to prepare a little bit more summary of the cover discussion, but I just wanted to give you an update of where we're heading. So if you do tour the plan, you see they're not covered, but they're operational. It's because we're trying to evaluate a better option, save money. And in fact, we went back to the vendor and said, "You make a lightweight cover?" And they said, "No, the only cover they make is that. That's it." They're all weather. They're made. Most RBCs are outside. They're not meant to be inside buildings. You just have a unique situation where they're inside. So one cover fits all, unfortunately. Second to that, like I said, we're waiting on a couple pumps. We came up with a creative way to mix ahead of the RBCs instead of putting on that expensive paddle system that was removed at some point, probably because it was problematic. We're now just gonna use a submersible pump that then just recirculates that box underwater. You know, keeps material suspended as it flows through the RBCs. We're just waiting on those pumps,
That's-
like $125 or $50 a piece. Significant savings to try to do the same thing. So with that said, you know, we're really optimistic going into the season that you'll have all 10 RBCs functional, and that'll put us in a better place. The next item was.
Excuse me, John, if I may, on the RBCs, Mr. Chairman. The startup of those two, it's been determined that because of ammonia loading in the past, that we're getting close to the threshold to where we need to do something. So this is the reason why we're.
Yeah,
turning
what we're
those two
seeing
on.
is under a normal daily load, the plant's adequate with 8, but what we're seeing and what Ty and Bond saw was at certain times of the year, typically around holidays and things like that, we get enough ammonia coming in a short burst that the RBC technology isn't reactive, like, you know, it doesn't just, if they're not on, they're not on. We're able to treat only what we can treat and the rest passes through, resulting in a high level, which then has to get averaged for the month and has resulted in a couple monthly violations sporadically. We feel, and Ty and Bond agrees, that having all your capacity online just makes sense. It's relatively inexpensive to operate and maintain. They're low horsepower discs, and there's no disincentive to operate them during at least the summer months when the ammonia level, the limit is much tighter and you have a lot more activity. So the short answer is, if we didn't have those spikes that the RBCs just aren't capable of treating, then we probably don't need 10. But Ty and Bond agreed that having 10 available and online is your safest way to operate.
And as I understand, the RBCs is not like turning a light switch on and off.
Right.
What happens is, in order to turn it on, you first of all have got to get this bacteria
Biomass,
going, and which takes, how long, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? 8
No.
weeks?
no,
Take-
12 weeks, 16 weeks.
Okay.
Think of it as moss growing, really. I mean, it's not the same type of organism, but it's like moss, right?
Yeah.
You gotta grow it onto the media, and then the water trickles over it,
Okay.
and that's how you remove the pollutants.
So once you get it going, you really don't want to shut it down,
Exactly.
because it takes too much
Yeah, it'll
time and
slough
effort
off
to
and
go
die,
back.
basically.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the technology we have. There are other technologies out there that are much more responsive and quicker to come online, but RBCs aren't. Their beauty is the simplicity. The downside is they take a long time to get to where you need them to be.
And the final answer would be if we have a situation to where the ammonia level gets so high, then we need to go out in the field and determine who's sending that ammonia level, and then have them pre-treat.
Well, yeah, we sort of know where the load's coming from. And yeah, obviously, treating at the point source is always the cheapest, most effective way to treat any parameter. It's just having them make that investment on, you know, there instead of at the plant.
Right. Okay.
So moving on to that headwork study, the next thing that was highlighted was alkalinity. We know that the plant is woefully behind in its ability to add alkalinity. Alkalinity is something you add to the wastewater to buffer against pH. And alkalinity, sort of like what you do with your pool, you know, you try to add alkalinity to keep the pH where you want it to be so that chlorine works well. We do the same thing at the plant. Removing ammonia eats up alkalinity. That's what happens. The bacteria that eat ammonia eat up the alkalinity when they do it, so you have to return it back into the water. Right now, we do it by hand using sodium bicarbonate. In the past, they had mixed it in these little day tanks and then they pumped it, but both the DEP and our safety people said that, you know, that's not a good way to do it. You know, there's too much danger involved in that. So now we're adding it by hand at the headworks, which has proven effective while we're there, but the reality is we're not there all the time. And we're not there at the time when the ammonia load's the highest, which is on the weekends. So with Ty and Bond's suggested as well as ours, you know, we looked at ways of upgrading the alkalinity feed system to the treatment plant. They recognize it's one of the critical aspects of treatment we have to do that we're currently not able to do very effectively. We're looking at three options. The first one was to put in a silo where you would bring in the bulk material, lime, soda ash, sodium bicarbonate, and meter it in by a feed screw. Beauty of that is you can order it in bulk, and then it lasts for a while. The second option was to take the system like we're using now and just expand it to a larger volume inside the Headworks building. Instead of using 50-pound bags, we would use 400-pound, or I'm sorry, 1-ton bags, hang it over a machine, and that machine would then feed it into the system. And then the third option is to, which is really gonna end up probably being the preferred option, is to bring in bulk storage inside where the ferric is currently applied, in solution. We would use sodium hydroxide, and that would then meter in the alkalinity continuously as a liquid. Where we're at right now is looking at the silo, you're up around, these are just ballpark numbers, 900,000 as a capital number. The bicarb feed system in the Headworks, roughly 500,000, 400,000, 500,000. And the caustic system is probably gonna come in somewhere like 250, 300. So for obvious reasons, that seems to be the one that, is gonna pan out to be the most cost-effective solution. The other advantage to that, and like I said, at the next meeting, we'll be able to present this more formally, I just wanted to tee it up for you all to think about, is right now we add caustic for pH adjustment in the effluent and pH adjustment in the COMAG system. It's part of the way the plant's designed now. So the advantage of piggybacking on a system that already uses caustic to then add it as alkalinity to the Headworks makes sense. So instead of multiple different things, you're all doing the same thing in one place. So Veolia, because that's sort of what you guys have asked us to do in our contract, is we're putting together ideas that we'll present to the commission to solve what everyone agrees is a real limiting problem for the plant. So getting the RBCs online and then having the ability to add enough alkalinity for the bacteria to do their jobs will go light years from where we are today to making sure that we're in compliance 100% of the time, regardless of what holiday it is and how much traffic there is on the Mass Pike.
So currently the caustic's added up by the RBCs from 55-gallon drums and flow and metered pumps.
Through
correct?
SCADA, correct.
Through SCADA.
Yeah,
What you
it's-
wanna do is remove that and make the new process of introducing that to control both alkalinity and pH to be controlled through SCADA.
Correct.
So we'd have to add an alkalinity sensor somewhere in the treatment process, and also use the pH sensor to control how much of that caustic is added into the Headworks building, which is the best place to add it.
Correct, ahead of the process.
You talked about the cost of installation of the system. What's the cost of respect to either, as far as buying product?
Yeah,
Is it proprietary to anyone?
No, it's an excellent point, though. The reason we're using bicarb and the previous operators is because it's a less expensive chemical to apply than caustic. Caustic's more expensive per pound of alkalinity. So you have to exchange high capital costs for low operating costs, or slightly higher operating costs for much lower capital costs. It really becomes a return on investment discussion, really. And we're gonna be presenting all that as well. But at the end of the day, the caustic is more expensive to apply, but easier and less capital deployed to do it. So it's probably gonna just pencil out, that just makes sense to do it. It's just, it's a more refined product, it comes as a liquid,
What do you use, systolic pump?
sorry?
Systolic pump?
Yeah, exactly.
But the staff has to manhandle the 55-gallon drums. Getting them to that point is not the easiest place to get them, so.
Yeah, the single most important thing we do every day is add alkalinity into that plant, when it ought to be just automatically done. It's one of those things where we're still, pulling the wagon instead of, having a motor and driving it.
Because that's the biggest thing that Ty and Bond found in the Headworks analysis, is that they directly link the loss of alkalinity to the exceedance of of the ammonia loading in the NIPD's permit, so.
Right.
If we can address that and have that be able to be addressed 24/7, because we're not fully staffed, and just have that be an automated process, I think it's a great direction to go. So the reason I wanted John to bring it up tonight is to put it in front of you guys, because we haven't discussed it yet. And rather, I just don't want John to spend too much time on this if the commission doesn't want to move forward in this direction. So previously you approved, I think it was maybe $117,000 to get RBCs 1 and 2 back online. That process seems to be moving forward well. We can operate them without them being covered, just like they were in the past. Run the dehumidifiers in the summertime if we're not able to get the covers installed in time. But again, you're looking at getting those 2 RBCs up and running. Maybe you're gonna cost $50,000 to $60,000 with covers if we can make that happen.
Yeah, if not less, yeah, if not less.
So now looking at what else we can do based on that tie and bond study, what else can we do for improvements to the plant to make it work more efficiently for Veolia so that it works better for us? And this is the next step, and in the discussions I've had with John and his staff, is this is the next big thing to try and get through. And I think when he presents the proposals, hopefully you guys will be willing to make the investment.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of the headwork study was to really identify the vulnerabilities, and they did, and like Peter said, you know, the next to the RBCs, the biggest one was alkalinity. And
So we have a problem that's basically created by a user, which really affects us on holidays and weekends when no one's at the plant.
Correct.
If we go to that user, to the source, and we do some situation there as Peter is investigating with those users, does that cut down on our problem?
Because we get ammonia from everywhere, and we get it consistently, we're always gonna need to add the alkalinity. We're adding it now. If you were to get the source, the high-strength source to take care of the problem, I think what it would do is lessen the impact they have on the treatment plant. It wouldn't eliminate the need to add alkalinity. We're always gonna need it because as part of the ammonia removal process, you consume it. What we're trying to do is create a barrier with an increased capacity at the plant until and such a time that ammonia load either gets addressed out there, or if it never does, be able to stay in compliance. If we can't maintain compliance, and unfortunately, it always happens on a weekend, and, you know, there's not enough days in the month to average the result down. Unfortunately, you can be great 25 days out of the month, but have, you know, 20, or whatever, 4 days short, right? 4 Sundays short. And you could be at 0 and still not meet permit. It's just, that's the way the averages work. So we have to be able to meet permit all the time, 24/7. If we can't, and if we were to continue to have violations, the state's gonna step in and make you do something anyway. You know, the first thing to do is to get an engineer to tell you what your problems were, which we've done. So now we just need a roadmap to be able to fix them.
I think another thing to look at is if you look at what our flow is and our inability to treat the half of the flow that the plant's designed for, is if that larger user did pre-treat, got their ammonia levels down, then we still want to do this so that we could feel comfortable actually letting new users come on and being able to accept the increased flow of possibly 350,000 gallons per day.
Yeah, that's an excellent point,
Rather
Peter.
than- Rather than the fear of, well, we're worried about new customers because we're barely meeting our limits now.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not uncommon for you guys to ask, you know, my opinion about what we think we can do, and it really becomes an unknown. I really couldn't say that you could take on an additional 100,000 gallons a day right now, given we know that there are times where we can't, as identified in the tie and bond report.
But after this is implemented, you could say that.
I'd feel much more comfortable. I mean, we'd have to see it, you know, and be tested. Right now, we know that our alkalinity goes from a typical level of 100 down to like 20 in a matter of a day, you know. We can't measure, there's no way to know what's coming, because it really depends on
Sure.
the activity on the Mass Pike,
And the problem is, no one's there.
and no one's at the plant.
Okay. Who doesn't want to work Monday, Tuesday at the plant, and wants to work Saturday, Sunday? No.
But
But even, it's only, no, you're right, but it's only, we're only there 8 hours. We've calculated when we think the flow hits, and it's usually around 10 o'clock at night. because of the detention time between the rest area getting to us. After it's been a busy day of everyone heading out of town or heading back into town.
But a good representative set of samples throughout the collection system would give you a better picture of the whole entire system.
Well, we measure, we sample the MTAs
Twice a month.
so we have the data, and there are times.
That's from the MTAs, I'm talking the rest of the
Rest
collection
of the
system.
system, yeah, we've done some sampling.
You sample at the headquarters building.
Yeah, we definitely sampled it, and Ty and Bond did a pretty thorough historical data review. What they didn't want to do, we didn't want them to do, was spend a ton of money just doing all those samples. We wanted to take a look at what we already had for information. But we're seeing fluctuations of between, what, 40, 50 milligrams per liter up
Yep.
to 100,
120.
you know, so it's just an amazing amount higher concentration.
And it's very labor intensive now for you guys to add this.
Yeah, the only option we have at this point is to do it by hand. And it, you know, and only during the working hours, so we're not there, we can't introduce it. Everything else is automated, similar to what we're talking about with pH control. You know, there's a meter, it tells you, okay, it's getting low, add a little bit more, it's getting high, drop it off. We don't have that ability with alkalinity, but we should.
So I think if we move forward with this and we talk about SCADA and the phosphax analyzer, while the person's out, if this does move forward this way and we add an alkalinity analyzer that gets tied into SCADA, probably at the same time have that phosphax analyzer tied into SCADA. And then you really get to get a good picture and get to track what's really happening at the plant. And then we're also talking about some upgrades that have to be done with Rayco and possibly tying a couple of pump stations into SCADA so we could see when the actual pumps are kicking on. And then we could really tie the increase in ammonia to when a pump station kicks on and we see it a couple hours later based on that runtime.
Yeah, we learned that
Because right now, that's not the case.
Yeah, we learned that the Rayco units that you've purchased have that ability. It's just a matter of purchasing the license to use it, but it can give you actual, a lot more data through a web-based cloud. that
Set all the alarms up through the cloud.
Question, John, do we have the space in the headworks to put this new container?
If we were to, the three options, again, were silo outside, bulk feed system inside the headworks, which it would fit, or a caustic system which would be in the same building as the RBCs are. So it wouldn't involve having to do anything in the headworks, which is nice. The thing with caustic is it has to be maintained at a certain temperature, so you gotta be real careful about where you place it. Because if the temperature falls below 50 degrees, it crystallizes.
That's the sodium hydroxide you're
Sodium
talking about?
hydroxide.
Okay, so you've got to be careful handling it.
It's probably the most hazardous material we have at the plant.
Okay.
It is,
and
I shouldn't say it's not, it is the most
Is
hazardous.
this material they use also at a water supply location?
It can be, I mean, it's for pH adjustment, it's,
'Cause I'm thinking of Spencer, isn't this the stuff that got into the water system in Spencer because the switch got left on? Caused people to get burned?
oh yeah, it'll burn you instantly.
Okay.
You can get it at different concentrations, the higher the concentration, the more. The problem with sodium hydroxide, just so you know, is it's not soluble in water like very easily, so you can't wash it off you. You know, if you get something on, you can usually wash it off and dilute it, but caustic doesn't work that way. You know, if it gets on your skin or in your eye, it's permanent, it's a permanent burn. You know, we obviously have all the protections and the training on it, but
And we are already using it.
And they do have it in powder form.
they do have it in powder form.
We've used it for cleaning fryer laters. Does
Oh,
a
it's
fantastic job.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever wanna
But
get rid
look
of
out.
grease, that's what you use,
Yeah, but look out.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very reactive chemical, which is why when it gets into your membranes or on your skin, it reacts very violently.
Have you got a ballpark estimate of the cost of putting the system in?
You know, I met with my CPM guys today to kind of size it all out. It's probably gonna be, you know, around the 300 range, probably less. I would put that at the top limit, because it's a couple bulk tanks and a few pumps and some wiring and pipes. It's a lot less material than if we were to put in a silo or had to build a concrete pad, and, you know, obviously it's a bigger machine. Or the one in the headworks that we had originally were looking at, simply because You know, now you gotta make building modifications, you gotta put in a garage door, you gotta, you know, move some stuff around.
If we didn't have the less than handful of users out there that is causing this phenomenon, let's just hypothetically say they don't exist anymore. Would we need to do this?
You definitely need to add alkalinity, just for the domestic.
We already know that, right, it's
Right.
been happening, it's
And-
been happening kind of, like the old farmer way of just doing things by hand and no real big machinery in there.
And the reality is, we can only add it when we're there, when realistically, you should add it continuously throughout the day. You know, because you basically have 2 periods of time where we see the load coming into the plant. Typically, 10 o'clock in the morning, after everyone's done their business and gone to work, and then when they get home, and they're doing their business before they go to bed. Well, we're not around when that second load hits, if you will. You know, the flows kind of go up, and then stabilize, and then go up again, and then drop off at night. So you really want to add it in a continuous basis to match your demand, or your load, if you will. We don't have that ability. So one way or the other, we should introduce it somehow, some way, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
All right, so no matter whether we had those customers that are doing what they are to us right now, even if they were erased, we would still need, or it would be
System.
recommended, we don't necessarily need it, but it'd be recommended to have a consistent batch coming out that we have this equipment.
Right, and at one time, the previous operator had kind of manufactured their own 24 system, but it was really very unsafe, and DEP asked us to remove it. It was really just a tank with water and a pump. Had no containment, had, you know, I mean, it was really
It's
just,
called Godiva.
yeah, MacGyver. yeah.
MacGyver.
You know, so we were asked, we had to remove it, which is why we went to the hand. They used to take it by hand and mix it in water and then pump the water. Now we just add it by hand. We avoid that mixing step simply because there's no vessel to do it safely.
Does this eliminate the need for that user to do pretreatment, or?
It protects it gives the plant the ability to a more effective way respond to loadings. Because we have the ability, it would be sized to handle maximum loads and minimum loads, and then it would adjust automatically. You know, the user, like I said, it's always better to treat at the source, you know,
Yeah.
like Treehouse is doing and stuff like that. It's absolutely always better, it's just, at what point does that happen?
Yeah, but if you don't have representative samples of the current condition out in this collection system, they may be doing pre-treatment, you may still see it at the plant.
Yeah, I guess the easiest way I could say it, what it would probably reduce is your operating expense. Because if you didn't have to treat that ammonia load to the level that it's coming in, then your consumption of alkalinity would drop. The consumption of alkalinity is proportional to the amount of ammonia that comes in. So the less that comes in, the less you consume. The more comes in, the more alkalinity you consume.
Okay.
What's
That
this gonna
makes sense.
add to our operating costs?
I haven't run the numbers, it won't be significant.
Okay.
I thought it was gonna decrease it, because now you guys don't have to do it.
No, you still have to add it, you just add it a different way.
Nice
But
try.
it's a more expensive product for sure, I don't, it's an all-around benefit, though, it's a long-term solution. What we have now is not a long-term
Well,
solution.
right now, we don't pay for chemicals, correct?
No, that's unreal. We'll have to work that out, we'll work with you on that.
So one of the important things that, again, we've always looked at when we look at doing some type of capital project like this, especially a big expense like this, is what's gonna happen with our NIPD's permit. Because it's up for review, we haven't really heard what's going on. We don't know what type of additional process, what type of limit restrictions we're gonna get, or new limits that we're gonna have to do an upgrade for, to treat for. It's always, well, let's wait till the NIPD's permit. We get a NIPD's permit so we know what's gonna happen. But in emailing the people at the EPA and realizing that they haven't even started to look at our permit yet to review it or know where that process is, no matter, and talking to John, no matter what happens with that permit, alkalinity is gonna be an issue. So whatever investment we make now to control alkalinity is gonna be beneficial for us, no matter where the NIPD's permit comes in, so.
Yeah, you gotta believe that your ammonia level limit is, if it goes anywhere, it's going down, it's not going up. They're never gonna allow you to discharge more.
The permit, when did the current permit we're working on, when did that expire?
2016?
16.
Okay, so, and we're not under the control of the state, we're under control of the EPA.
For now, it's still under the,
Right, because
for Massachusetts, it's the EPA, yes. The Mass DEP, I think, enforces it, but the EPA sets the limits.
Limits.
I remember reading something to where in some cases, the DEP becomes the new limit setter.
That hasn't happened yet. There's
In
been
some
talk of
states,
it.
they call it being delegated. Connecticut and Rhode Island,
Okay,
their
maybe that's what I
environmental
said, right.
protection agency, the DEP of Connecticut, of Rhode Island or Connecticut, they issue the permits. In Mass, it's a non-delegated state, so EPA still does. But DEP is the enforcement arm of it.
Okay.
So guys, I think it's important to note that no matter where the NIPD's permit goes, this is still an important
Sure.
key, and it won't, it's not like you're gonna spend, hopefully, we're not gonna spend this money now, and then in 2 years when the new NIPD's permit comes out, you're gonna say, well, that was a waste, because we have to redo it now and do
Yeah,
something
no.
different, so
You'll always need that alkalinity.
hopefully that won't be the case.
And when will you have this information back to us?
We're working on it now, probably by the next meeting. We'll actually have some written up narrative that will be distributed through Peter. I just didn't want to, I wanted to update on where we're at. You know, we had that headworks analysis done, we had a couple bumps in ammonia over the summer, and we're just trying to make sure everyone knows that we're on top of it and we're moving forward so that come the new permit season, we're ahead of the game. Really trying not to be reactive anymore and trying to be more proactive. So,
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure the commission was on board with that type of possible investment, so that John doesn't do all this work and then come back and you guys weren't interested at all, so. If it sounds like something you wanted to move forward with, then I think we should just keep it moving forward and hopefully get that presented to you. And again, town meeting is in May, so if I believe we have enough funding in our capital improvement budget that, in our reserve budget, that if John gives us a solid enough estimate, procurement's not a problem, we could put something on the annual town meeting to get approval to fund this type of upgrade.
We'd actually be just doing a transfer, we wouldn't be raising any capital from
We would be, yes, we would be funding this improvement from the line, our capital improvement.
Right, so
line
we'd be
item.
taking the money out of a savings account.
Yes.
Right, not from the taxpayer, or from the,
No,
or from the
no,
ratepayer.
this is capital. and
Okay, just to
capital
be clear,
improvement
that's all,
fund.
yep.
Definitely.
yeah, what we're describing tonight is exactly what was outlined in that headworks report by Ty and Bond, so, you know, certainly you can go back and review just to refresh kind of, you know, your understanding of what their recommendations were as well. A few of the other recommendations we've already implemented, you know, changing the way the tanks are leveled and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was a win that we got the RBCs operational, you know, without really any significant capital, which was
The
good.
issue with the tanks weren't leaking, it was
No, it
the
was the
plumbing.
drains, yeah.
That was good leaking, that was good news.
Yeah, we fixed that internally, well, using our staff and
Yeah.
those who plan. Yeah, no, and that's why I said, that's why, you know, when I'm looking at the covers and I'm saying, why spend all that money when really all you need is a greenhouse? You know, some lightweight tubing and plastic and,
It's not that we have people climbing the rafters here, but if someone was climbing the rafters, they could actually land, jump 4 feet onto one of those and slide down.
yeah,
Yeah, but
they
because.
would be remiss,
because we
they
don't
wouldn't
have
be
a-
working for me very long. Once I pulled their bodies out of that
Yeah.
thing.
All right, so
But
what you're
yeah.
looking at is some type of poling and some type of heavy plastic to go
Yeah,
over
you
them,
know,
almost as if you're.
like
putting,
shrink wrapping. really.
Yeah, you shrink wrap in a boat or something like that. Obviously with an air vent.
Yeah, it still would be tied into the vent system, but
Yeah.
again, it's just using like a dryer vent, you know, there's not really a lot of pressure, it's, you know.
Just to let some oxygen through, so that I guess that's the only thing we haven't done is monitor the
Yeah,
oxygen.
especially when we know there are other major capital items that you really would rather spend your money on than putting a cover on that's somewhat unnecessary.
But the covers work well for the.
No, they're
plumbing.
one, if money were no object, I'd say put them
Yeah,
on,
we
you
were
know.
looking at
but-
$800,000-$900,000 at one of the plans. repair the problem there,
Right,
so.
yeah. And if they were outside, it's a different animal, clearly.
Thank
So,
you.
again, just an update on kind of what's been happening at the plant over the last couple of months.
Within the last week, we had a significant rain event. I'm just wondering what the flows were at the plant during that time.
It pegged at a million. We don't know what it was above that, but it was at a million, right? That's what the
Yes.
flow meter pegs at?
Yep.
So it was over a million, but we
For
don't know
6
how much it
hours.
was.
For 6.5 hours.
Keith ran the bypass pump up around, you know,
Yep.
the hoses and stuff.
The hoses with the investment. That's worked, no, it worked well to get it all the way up to the diversion structure. Works well, so.
You know, obviously, that's a temporary fix.
Exactly.
You know, we'd like to think that we're gonna remove the I&I and not, but, you know, there may be down the road, a request to do something more permanent. We've talked about it, you know, because you go out there with a gas can and a pump, you know, you're just trying to move the water, basically. But we've already talked about doing some work on Carpenter Hill,
Yes.
coming up to do some I&I review, so.
Yeah. That one branch is not the problem.
No, but I know that's
It's
been a
maybe
concern
some of the
of
problem,
you
but
guys.
it's not all the problem.
But I can tell you, it's a region-wide problem. Every plant that reports to me, every plant in the region has seen unbelievable flows, you know, over the last 8 months. And like I said, they're already sending out dire warnings for the spring, so.
Hey, you guys, any more for us?
Yeah, I got one major announcement to make,
Sure.
and that person is sitting to my right.
Okay, Zach.
Oh, we thought he was just learning, he was here observing, like in the driver ed car in the back seat.
Keith has been promoted to take on a position in Westboro, Mass. I wrote a letter to the commissioners. Real happy for him. One of the things that's great about my organization is we provide a lot of opportunity for people. So Keith is accepted and is moving on to the Westboro, Mass wastewater plant. So I've hired or transferred Zach Donahue, this gentleman to my right, from our Sturbridge project, who's been operating at the COMAG and wastewater plant for Sturbridge for the last 5+ years. He's gonna come on and be Keith's replacement as plant superintendent effective February 11th. Zach comes to, has been working for us for a long time. He ran Maynard for a while, and interesting enough, Maynard's an RBC plant, and Sturbridge is a COMAG plant. So his background is perfectly in line with what we're doing in Charlton.
Maynard's RBCs and COMAG as well.
It is COMAG as well, that's right,
So,
I forgot.
very similar.
So he's got the exact experience and talent that, we were looking for in Charlton. So I'm pleased to introduce him to you. You'll get a good chance to know him. I can't speak highly enough about him, not just because he's sitting here, but brings a lot of skill, both on the wastewater side, but also on the SCADA computer side of things as well. Zach was instrumental in the upgrade in Sturbridge, when Sturbridge went from its previous process to, they have, in addition to COMAG, they have what's called BioMag, which is an additional treatment process that uses the same technology, but for the activated sludge portion of the plant. Where you have RBCs, they have actually activated sludge tanks where they use the same material that COMAG uses to help facilitate that process. And, so Zach brings, even though, he's got a young face, he brings a lot of experience with him, and we're really looking forward to what he's gonna bring to the project at Charlton.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to serving the town.
Well, we're gonna welcome you to the plant, and Keith, we're gonna wish you well in your new position.
Thank you.
You're staying with the same company, right?
Yes,
That's
I
the
am.
beauty of it, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not losing anything, we're just,
Yeah.
Keith still lives in town, and he'll answer the phone should we need him. I can assure you of
absolutely.
that, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you kindly. It's been a pleasure working for the town, working with everybody. Thank you for that opportunity.
Maybe.
Maybe, no, I think maybe the last one, not sure yet.
The
Oh,
next
come
one's
back for what?
February 11th.
Well, I'm thinking of, it's, the January report will be due in February, so.
And there will be one more staffer change as well.
Yeah, it's Steve, one of our operators, has accepted a position in Palmer, Mass. Trying to keep him from taking it. But He's looking to get closer to home. He lives out that way, so there's a chance we might be losing Steve in a few weeks. Interviews for his replacement have already started. I had an interview today at the plant for an operator replacement for him. So we'll be looking forward to onboarding a new person if we have to. And Steve made it clear, he loves the company. He's really happy. He wishes Veolia ran that one, but I think just the commute was getting to him a bit.
So Steve was there when it was Woodland and Carr as well. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
exactly when he
Steve's the
started.
inside man, so you can get that contract next time it comes out.
We'll have none of that. But no, I mean, Steve he expressed it to me even today that, he wishes that he wants to leave on good terms, looks to, stay, connected to us in some point. You just never know.
Yep,
It's a
never
small
know.
business. And he's been a good employee for us. But he's gonna help us, he's gonna give us as much time and additional training as we need, but, Keith's not going anywhere, he's up the street. Zach brings a tremendous amount of experience, I'm still around. We've got another, talented operator already on staff, so we feel pretty comfortable about it.
We're all in. We thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time.
Thank you.
We'll
See
you next-
some of you
next meeting.
anyway,
Yeah.
on February 11th.
Definitely these two. Yeah.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the industrial user program and application. Peter?
Yeah, so we've talked about an IPP program in the past, which is, I don't know if it's the right term to use, because I'm not sure we have any true industrial users. We do have non-residential users, which might be a better way to approach this. And so I went to the EPA seminar last summer, and the application that we created was a template I took from there. My thought process is, if you look at, again, the application process, and then look at the list of, I'm gonna stick with non-residential customers, because we currently sample 3 customers right now, the MTAs, and Carl Stortz and Treehouse. All the rest of these non-residential customers are not sampled just because a process was never created. So what I'd like to do is create, if you approve the application, I'm gonna create a cover letter, send out the letter and the application to this list of non-residential customers. Get that information back from them, compile it, and then start working on prioritizing which ones of these customers are larger users that may be contributing above what our standard household concentrations are. So BOD, you're looking at 250 parts per million. TSS is the same, 250 parts per million, and ammonia is 40. So we'll look at what types of processes, what types of businesses they run, try and figure out who are most likely to be above that, and then from there, again, create that priority chart, let them know that we're gonna go out, we're gonna sample, do some initial samples, have the staff go out and do that. Hopefully we can find a decent way to get to collect that sample, and then see what the results are that we get. Last month, I actually talked with Keith, and Veolia went out to the Overlook. They are our single largest user as far as flow goes. And what they did was they went, Overlook discharges into our system at 2 different places on the Sonic Home Road. One right up across from the police station at that entrance, and there's a lower manhole down on the Sonic Home Road across from, that's Billy Plant's house. Right. So they went up there, I think it was 3 times that day, and they took grab samples and created a composite sample that they sent out for analysis. And the results for that is that Masonic Home was below our standards for surcharging for that day. So it was just information I kind of wanted to have, just so we could know where they stand, because again, they are the largest user per day that we see. So a small increase over household concentrations could create much more significant impact versus a smaller user of 4,000 gallons per day that is 4 times the concentration for household concentration. So I think we need to, again, identify these non-residential customers, try and, again, prioritize, rank them, and then start doing that same type of process where we do some sampling there, see what we get for initial results, and then determine what type of sampling program we need to keep intact for them. So I just wanted to run that by you, see what your thoughts were.
So Peter, this is the list, approximately 55 users that you've got listed here.
Yeah, there's no there may be more, but
There may
from,
be, of course.
again, from driving around,
course.
from looking at what we have, that's kind of what we've been able to
Right,
come up with
right.
so far.
And, this is similar to what was proposed 9, 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, because actually, what authority do we have to go on someone's property and say, I'm here and I wanna test your manholes?
I'd have to read the bylaws, but if they're a commercial, if they're a non-residential user, I believe we have that authority, because we talk about, it talks about discharge, and it talks about those limits that they have to meet.
Yeah, I thought that was the issue. Remember that? You do remember that? Yeah, yeah. And again, you know, with anything, it's all about the approach.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if they said no, if we asked them to have access to sample, but that would be interesting. I'm not sure it'd be
Yeah,
beneficial to
yeah,
them to do that,
you know, but if I'm not mistaken,
so.
is the commission had to approve the process before it could go any further.
Possible. Again, I'm
Yeah,
talking,
yeah.
I think that the process would be is cover letter, explain where we're going with the
That's all common
application,
sense.
get that information, and then talk to them about getting access to their property to collect a sample.
Okay, so then let's,
Yeah, I wouldn't just say, all right, we're gonna go and sample it, say Zorbas. We're not just gonna go to Zorbas on a Monday and say we're here to collect a sample without giving them a heads up and telling them what we're doing.
yeah, yeah,
And I think there's a lot of follow-up, and again, with grease traps and other things that we currently aren't following up on, that if we can get the information in-house and create the template and create the list, we'll
Yeah.
be able to follow up and make sure we get those reports semi-annually or annually to make sure that those grease traps are getting cleaned and everything like that.
I necessarily don't think it's a bad idea, but I would wanna make sure that, if we were to do this, that we have the authority to go into people's private property.
Well, if they allow you,
Well, okay, but if they don't allow you,
Then
then
no.
what do you do? That's, cause
Yeah.
the thing is you would, I think there's a process out there to where, that the property owner or the user doesn't have any choice. I think that was
I'll
the-
review our bylaws. I know our sewer
Okay.
bylaws are pretty thorough when it comes to this.
Okay, if you
So
could,
I'll-
if you could. I know that was an issue.
I remember,
You know, flash the badge, here I am, and get out of the way.
yeah,
You have a badge?
the thing is,
We don't have any badges. I know some
It's not a gold star.
boards in town that have badges. Yeah, we don't have any badges.
Oh,
We could
but-
always order a
Let Peter
badge if
handle it.
anyone wanted a badge.
I'm
But-
not
You want a badge?
No,
No.
Thank you.
Auburn allows discharging right into the manhole, and that's something that's not done in Charlton, to my knowledge, because if it were, you could just open the manhole and you know where the
Well, that's what we
material's
did,
coming
that's what we
from.
did at the overlook,
Because
because
they're
they're,
the
Well,
only
that's,
they
kind-
have
yeah,
their
that's a whole different
individual manholes in
situation.
the roadway.
Sure.
But I also talked to the facility manager and told him, I talked to him, gave him a heads up of where we were going with it, and told him that I was gonna try and get out there and collect some samples,
Yeah.
just to get that initial information.
And
What do
also,
you-
one other thing on that, also to be reasonable, Peter, is, you know, when you do a grab sample and have it tested, that's one day at one particular time. And, if in fact it's below, okay, it's below. If it's over, well, you know, the thing is do you then go by that as being their standard? So what I'm trying to say here is then it would need to, I would think there would be a series of samples that would be taken before you would start the surcharge.
I think a lot is gonna depend on what type of users, what type of information we get back from the users that determines what they might be contributing into the system. And again, like I said, at the overlook, they went there 3 times throughout that day, probably spaced out 4 hours throughout their
Yeah.
workday. They would grab samples that they created a small composite sample
Yep,
with throughout
yep.
the day. So we could kinda set up that process for an initial sample, And then the only cost we have is that of the lab analysis that we can pass on to those customers like we do for the MTA. I mean, Storts and Treehouse, they give us the results because they pay an engineer to go there and take their samples. We don't do that.
Yeah, but a lot of the places you have listed there, I can't see how you're gonna specifically access.
It might be an exercise, but
Yeah, you would need,
whether it's a cleanup.
The
again-
post office, what are they discharging other than a couple toilets?
Well, correct, but they're not, so to create, and that's where we're gonna prioritize them, it's a non-residential, so just to stay
So-
consistent with,
You're gonna put money forth in trying to investigate a house that could have 4 toilets in it, and whereas the post office may only have 2. I'm not necessarily seeing what the benefit is to spending the money on it.
they're on the list to get the information and create and prioritize from there. Just because they're on the list doesn't mean we're gonna go there. Like you might, like you just said, it's a post office that has 2 toilets.
yeah,
There's minimal cleaning, there's no chemicals used.
yeah.
It's only there for the employees, the customers can't even use it. Might say it's not worth, we're not gonna sample it, it's way down the priority
Well,
list.
then becomes the task of how you're actually gonna get specific samples
And then
from that.
Correct, whether it's, you find the clean out and you try and do a sample there, I don't know, but I think I just tried to stay consistent with all non-residential customers to create the list. And then from there, prioritize which ones raise a red flag for processes that are done as part of their business where we should be concerned and want to sample. We may never get to the post office, we may never get to 2/3 of these, because what they send back, and there is no process that we're concerned about. And we may just do 12 of them, and from those 12, depending on the results, we might say, all right, 6 of them are fine, we don't need to retest. Other 6, they were high, we need to take 2 or 3 more samples throughout the next 2 to 3 months and figure out what your true average is, and if they're consistently over, then we'll have to put them on their own sampling plan, where maybe they have to install some type of composite sampler to get more consistent, true results, depending on what they do. So it's just, again, it's very initial, it's just, this is the list that we found. I didn't wanna just say we're picking these 10 and not those other 20 that you know are there. So.
Okay, moving on, Peter, new
So is it-
projects.
Do you want me to move forward with the application and send this out to the list provided, or?
I think we need more information as far as whether we're gonna have the authority to go on the property.
To take the sample?
Right,
Okay. All right, I will get that to you.
how that's gonna work out.
Were there any other concerns with the process other than what we discussed?
Not this time for me.
Okay, great. New projects? Okay, so just to kind of keep you informed of what's kind of up and coming, new projects, MTD up on 15 Trolley Crossing Road. Now that you've talked to, I guess, Charteroni Properties about the new water main to be installed on Trolley Crossing Road, MTD is also looking to do a building addition that they've been talking about for a while, but they couldn't until they had water for fire suppression. So they're gonna participate with Charteroni Properties and get that water line there, get them access to it, and access to fire suppression.
Sorry, guys.
So I think their plan is maybe for an 8,000 square foot addition to their current building for more manufacturing. There might be 1 or 2 small office rooms or employee rooms as part of it, but nothing major. They are currently connected to water and sewer. So, the plans are here if you want to review them, but there shouldn't be any large additional use because of this addition.
But what about the use of the building, though? Are they gonna have a greater use of water? Thus greater sewer?
Yes, so in the past, what we've been consistent with is the Title V numbers of the existing building versus the Title V numbers of the building with the addition based on the use, and a privilege fee based on that change. So you would take that gallon per day change, divide it by 200 gallons per EDU, and figure out what that privilege fee is gonna be, based on their increased flow.
Okay, and, have they, within their plans, and for that use, stated the amount of water use,
No, they haven't.
thus being
No,
sewer
again,
use
with-
as well?
I'm not even sure they've been to the planning board for their first meeting yet, so I'm just
Okay.
trying to get this out in front of
Okay,
you.
yep, yep.
Just so if you see it in the paper, or you happen to hear someone talking about it, you're not surprised. Water, when Charteroni came in front of you for his building, you said there'd be no privilege fees or charges for the water line, so I believe MTD is participating in the cost of that, so there wouldn't be any water fees associated with that. If you guys disagree with the sewer privilege fee and how that is being calculated, let me know, but I think that's how you've done it in the past. And it's consistent, I believe, with how new users pay and everything, so.
Whatever the consistent process in the past has been.
And so what are you saying as far as the sewer?
So
If it is an increase in sewer,
if there's an increase in Title V usage,
yeah,
they pay a betterment based on that increase of 200 gallons per day per EDU.
okay.
Because that's how you Treehouse's privilege fee was based on their well, no, they didn't have Title V usage.
No,
You
they
went-
didn't, they said they.
You went, but you agreed to certain gallons per day that they could contribute. See, you agreed to 7,500 gallons per day is what you were gonna allow them to access to the plant. You took that 7,500 gallons per day, divided it by 200 gallons per day per EDU, and you charged them $8,200 per EDU to come up with their privilege fee.
Right, but the problem that's out there is,
Treehouse was probably not the best example.
Well,
because
no, well,
You didn't go by Title V. but
in
you
a
have your
way,
MOA.
Treehouse is a good example because we didn't go by Title V. We went by an agreed amount of demand water that they felt that they were going to use, which was 7,500 gallons a day. So that's what we divided the 200 into.
Yes.
But if in fact a user came forward and said, I'm building X, and X is not listed in the chart of Title V, then what it says at the last paragraph of Title V for the chart is that if you're not on the chart, you take the proven gallon amount that you stated and multiply it times 150%, and that's how you would design a system. So that's Title V. So that would have been for them an extra somewhere in the 12,000 range. Because the problem is where I've seen it argued before, is Title V is based pretty much on a 3-bedroom house, which is 330 gallons, and also it's stated that usually you only put out for waste about 60% of your estimated flow. So 60% of the 330 is 198 gallons. And industry-wide across the state, that's why they say an EDU was worth 200 gallons. So what we're doing is we're discounting the house usage, but when it comes to commercial, a lot of times they go, what's Title V? Okay, and then divide 200 into it. So you can see where there's an imbalance there, because we're not giving the commercial the 60% discount.
Correct, but you haven't.
I mean, it's a
so
40% discount based on
unless-
60%
Correct,
usage.
unless you vote to do that moving forward.
Yeah, okay, because, you know, I, again, personally, because of just having some things that, the Title V usage isn't necessarily accurate to the water/sewer usage. It's water and sewer usage is usually less, quite a bit less.
Yeah,
So,
brewery didn't have an SIC too. There's no SIC for the brewery.
no, right, yeah, yeah.
That's another reason we ended up in that
Well,
hole.
you know, again, it's based, and it was
Yeah.
unusual, but if you, again, if you have 3 homes that 3 bedrooms each, and then you have a commercial user, and Title V says it's 1,000 gallons, then what, the 3 homes, which would be, again, 1,000 gallons, but really, it's really estimated, it's only gonna be 600 gallons, because it's 200, 200, 200 for a 3-bedroom house. And that's what we collect on. This guy over here, we're gonna divide 200 into 1,000 and charge him 5 EDUs.
Like you've consistently done to every commercial property
Well,
so
again,
far, so.
I'm not saying just because
It's-
it was done in the past doesn't mean I'm talking, the majority, which was done on day one, right? Again, I don't think that was, personally, I don't think it was thought out. And I had asked Abraham about it, and he says what was done was not equitable because of the fact of the homes. But anyways, I hope we don't get a bunch of abatements in here tomorrow, but anyways, I think we have to,
That's why you stay consistent.
that's why you stay consistent.
That's why, again, it kind of,
Well, it's just,
it keeps you on that path to continue to do it the
Yeah.
same way,
it does, but,
even though it might not be the fairest way, it's the way it's been done.
Yeah, because the
so to
people
continue
who
wrong
paid the
is
price
right.
before, well, the people who paid the price before aren't gonna be happy that all of a
It's
sudden,
past practice.
Yeah.
there will be a line.
Well, no,
Send
they
them
had,
to your
no,
door.
people, in fact, I actually witnessed an appeal that was exactly based on that argument, and the appeal was denied by the commission, and that person had the ability to go and take it to the next level, and they didn't. So, all right,
I knew that was bothering you.
So the next project, again, very preliminary, I believe their initial site plan meeting is coming up is Fourscore. It's marijuana grow facility at 144 Sturbridge Road, which is the brick building opposite Sampson Road,
You know,
where HK Harwood used to be, which turned into Vehicle Outfitters. It's a vacant 20,000 square foot building. They're looking to repurpose, renovate it, and I believe they're gonna grow, process, and sell there. Maybe not retail, maybe just grow and process.
So now, just a little overlap on this with your last topic. So if you had a new business come into an existing business, now they'd fill out the application and you'd start the process all over again.
Yes.
So in this situation, you'd be able to say, okay, the last guys there, they were putting nuts and bolts together and they weren't doing really anything. Now,
Right.
these guys, maybe they're gonna trigger some different things, we don't know, but.
There a water main out there?
There is.
How come they're not connecting?
They may be. It's very preliminary. I haven't talked to them yet. They have to connect because the fire suppression is based on a cistern tank that's built into the center of the building, and their new plans show processes throughout the entire building, growth and processes. So they must be gonna get rid of that cisterns, because they currently have a private well on site and they're tied into sewer. They have not, I haven't talked water or sewer with anybody yet, so, they're gonna have to connect to
At
water.
the
Yeah, because it's volume for,
Yes, but they're gonna need fire suppression, so they're gonna have to,
no, but even domestically.
even to, yes, understood.
at the time when that building was built, water was in the street,
Mhm.
but unavailable,
I believe so,
and now it's
at that
available.
time. Correct.
And sewer's there as well,
They're connected to sewer.
they're already connected to
Yes.
sewer, okay.
So again, I have a question mark next to the water because I haven't talked to them yet. But yes, under our bylaws, we can vote to force them to mandate that they connect to sewer based on the type of renovations that they're doing. And then the last update, I guess you're all aware of it, but Rain for Rent up at Trolley Crossing Road, they're proposing a renovation to that, to the Howlett building. I guess in reviewing their plans, one of the, I guess, biggest surprises I saw was they're planning a wash bay with a closed system for that wash bay, whether they're gonna bring their tanks in to wash them or their vehicles in to clean them before they service them or whatever for their service bay.
So it's gonna be a tight tank,
It's gonna be a closed loop system, yes, tight tank.
but it's not gonna be similar to what the car wash is, closed loop, but then every 5, 8 weeks or whatever, they dump it on us.
I'm not sure that that's happening.
What, do they have, well, then I suppose, getting back to the permit,
Yes,
is they would have to show us,
yes.
where some pumper truck comes down and pumps out their
Yep.
tank. I think it gets dumped into our system, but,
Well, then again, we'll
I don't know, don't know.
I'll learn more about their
Right.
processes as I move forward, but, so as I reviewed their plans, that came up and just, again, it's not a big level of concern as long as it's designed correctly and it's a closed loop system and we don't see any of it. There will be floor drains in the other portion of the building where there's dry storage that'll go through a oil water separator and then into the septic, like all the other buildings. So, again, those are the three most recent projects there are the ones that I believe you guys are all aware of.
Old business, water,
Water
Privilege fees?
Yes. So I know we've been around this a few times and I'm trying to wrap my head around what's been done because I found in minutes from 2014, the minutes don't reflect the motion that was made, it reflects some of the discussion. But watching the video of the meeting, a motion was actually made where you voted privilege fee methodology based on the same methodology for the water betterments of $2,447.16 per EDU.
Excuse me,
From
what was that amount?
$2,447.16.
Thank you.
So that motion was approved and made on October 6th. Again, the minutes reflect some discussion, but not the actual motion. In listening to the video, the motion that I have recorded, is word for word based on what was said. Since that time in 2014, I haven't found any motions in the minutes to actually assess anyone that privilege fee. There's been discussion around it and about it, but I have not found a particular motion that said this property is connecting to water, therefore it's going to receive a privilege fee. And even the most recent one of Upham Farms, where you guys discussed it and it was talked about, I was unable to find a motion like you do for sewer.
I know well Upland Farms, I do not recall the motion, I recall the discussion
So
that they would be charged and that we would be getting back to them.
So, there hasn't been any motions regarding.
Yeah.
That's the,
Yeah.
So, and then the privilege fee was based on the betterments. The betterments are gone because the debt's paid off. People who are coming to connect have to pay Southbridge a connection fee, which is different than a privilege fee, but it's for the same purpose, right? I mean, as we move forward, the privilege fee or connection fee or system development charge, whatever we decide to use, is gonna be used to offset future capital for our current infrastructure, as we need to make improvements. So Southbridge is already collecting that. We are, according to our IMA, we're supposed to be getting 15% of what they collect for connection fees for Charlton customers. So I'm following up with Heather on that to make sure that that's been getting sent to us. If we go consecutive, if that pans out, then that cleans things up where we can create our own connection fee, privilege fee, system development charge, whatever we decide and whatever process we decide to use, the customers will be paying Charlton and Charlton only. So right now, if we charge a privilege fee or a connection fee, they have to pay us that large fee and also go to Southbridge and pay Southbridge their connection fee as well. So they almost have to pay twice compared to what previous customers have not had to do.
Or compared to drilling a well and doing the water test
Well, you
and
know,
also meeting
Yeah.
the parameters for arsenic and also for gross alpha, which a well could cost up to easily $11,000, $12,000, $13,000. So
So
we don't make it, again, that's expensive. A $2,447 fee for having clean water tested, in this situation, daily, to being delivered to your house. So I dare to challenge anyone who even does their well test at their own personal home on an annual basis, never mind daily or weekly.
But they pay us and they pay Southbridge the $2,000 fee as well.
Right, okay, so now you're up to $4,600. Yeah, you
So-
just barely put the 6-inch hole in the ground.
So I guess, moving forward or moving backwards, where does the commission want me to go with the privilege fee? Because we have yet to assess one, we have yet to vote one, we have yet to assess any property with that fee.
The privilege fee has been voted in. The
It has.
assessments, I don't know any of them that have been, any properties that have been assessed that came in after October 6, 2014, which I believe there was one or two that were on Route 20, and then there was the racquetball court division up there. The condos where they did the.
Upland Farms.
Upland Farms.
I believe
The 30 units.
Honey Farms has connected quite a few houses in the Charlton City
Oh,
area.
that's later, I'm talking about early, yeah.
But later than 2014, there's a
Right.
5-year window there where we haven't assessed anybody this privilege fee that was voted in. Whether it be Treehouse, whether
Yeah,
it be
exactly.
any of these new customers, so.
I know we're a little late, we're a lot late, but again, I think it's still due. I'm only one opinion here, but,
So, in reading the minutes from August 4th,
Yes.
I just had it down.
October 4th?
August 4th. In your packet,
Does anyone have that?
Yes, it's in everyone's.
we established that we would use privilege fees for water. We did not set up the schedule of amounts, so
Okay.
there's no methodology to do this at this point. Did you ever, I don't think we ever really solidified any of that.
We did on October 6th. which was
Came up
2
with a
months later.
complete schedule?
No.
I didn't think so.
In subsequent minutes, there's talk about having Chris McClure create that schedule and
Right.
do some of that work, but I never find
Where
where it's come back full circle and you guys have accepted what's been done, so, again, if you keep
Oh,
going.
Wait a minute. The general vote of whether to do it or not do it took place on October 6, 2014. The concept was discussed, thank you, Alex, back in August, okay? And it was said, it's fine, you want to get it in place, and then you finalize it with some of these other things, and as you just said, McClure was supposed to come back, and I think he's supposed to work with Steve to get it taken care of. And, but it still doesn't mean that we didn't vote in a privilege fee for water for $447.16. Whether we have betterments or don't have betterments, the method or the methodology was based on what we used for the sewer. And whether the betterments are paid or not paid, it was already determined what method we were going to use and how we would arrive at an amount for each property,
EDU method.
EDU method.
Not the FAR method?
Actually,
I think it's the FAR method.
it does mention in here the farm method, EDU method slash
Yes.
dash bar. Yeah.
But it's not referenced to, what was the farm method?
It was the last series of betterments we did with Chris.
Yeah. That, I would probably be a
It
little more.
was Joe, and myself, and Chris. What was that for?
Right.
The last bit of water, right?
That was the last bit of water. You worked with Abrams. Both Paul and I could not be involved with it because at the time, it was determined that we had a conflict, that we had a conflict because of the amount of users was less than a certain percentage. But then later on, Steve went back to Cosgrove with a little bit of guidance, and then Cosgrove rescinded what he had said, because what he wasn't doing, he wasn't taking in the population of the Masonic home or the apartments that were being serviced to come up with the amount of people. He said first there was only 600 people. Well, now, you know, when you went and took in those other things, the amount of people was way over the percentage that we needed, which then meant that we could have participated. It's out of the rule of necessity, is what it was out of. So, but anyways,
Because that's where the whole 50/50, now I'm reading, what's this, August 18th? That's where the whole 50% now, 50% later, because we did that, with that series.
Well, that's how you figured out your water betterments, right? Because
Yeah.
only, the project wasn't
Right.
completely bettered because it wasn't completely filled.
But there's still questions in these August 4th and August 18th meetings as to what we're allowed to do with privilege fees versus betterments. That, I don't know if they need to be revisited. You know the ones I'm talking about?
There's more questions than answers,
Yeah.
unfortunately, so.
I know it was voted on in October, but I don't think some of these answers were ever clarified between August and October.
The last time I brought this up, you asked, what do other towns around us do? And there's a spreadsheet in the back that shows, most other towns, no one else for water that I could find charges a privilege fee per se. It's all connection fee based on line size, and that's pretty consistent.
But all those towns also own their own systems.
We own our system, we just don't own our supply.
Well,
We own the infrastructure.
yeah, but that's,
They
yeah,
operate.
We don't own the supply, and we charge a connection fee,
But you operate.
the distribution side of it.
So once, if we were to go consecutive and operate, then we would have to charge the connection fee or system development fee. But to do that on top of Southbridge, is now the time? Do we stay with the privilege fee, identify it and start, do we go retroactively to 2014? Those are the questions I keep coming up with, and again, the minutes aren't clear as to yes or no, so we just need to kind of, maybe the best thing for me to do is to just write a list of the questions out that we need to truly discuss and figure out how to move forward from here. Because I think, again, this is probably the second, third time we discussed this, and not that I expect us to just say, all right, this is what we're gonna do, but I'm gonna have to pose the certain questions that we need to address to really get this to come to an end.
the meeting of October 6th, is that on, was it camera meeting?
Yep.
Okay, so, and did anyone transcribe what was said there?
I just transcribed the motion, not the entire discussion.
Okay, okay. And so is that what you have highlighted in yellow here?
No, the next page, after the signature page is one more page. That's the actual
Okay.
motion I transcribed from the video.
Okay, so, and that was seconded and unanimous,
Yes.
so it's in play. So I look at it. If we wanna go and rescind this, since nothing's been done since, or do we go and say it's there, and we're now fully aware of it, and we need to implement it based on the connections that we have?
from 2014, I think we're getting back into some past discussion about going back over a year with anything and saying, you know, if we go back more than a year, you haven't done anything about it in the past year? You know, you haven't done anything about it. I think that was the workshop for that, right? Alex, Jen?
correct.
It's a pretty big hit.
If there was nothing acted on it, I mean, it's kinda hard to go back 5 years and react on something that hasn't been acted on, and not necessarily it was fully a completed process.
Uniformity and consistency.
And that, we had a decision come back from that attorney, it was fairly clear.
He said, after a year, chasing your tail. That's my interpretation of the,
That's what I got out of it too.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear cut.
if you're not enforcing your policies as it happens, then,
Then shame on us.
yep. So, we need to be current with the decision and figure it out moving forward and say, again, shame on us moving forward, now from here on out, this is the way it works.
Okay.
And I think that's, my opinion, the only way you can do it, so.
Okay. So,
Do we need a motion to rescind that?
no, because it's in play, it's there, it's established. If I could use that moving forward, if that's the system you wanna use. If there's a different process you wanna
Well,
use,
I-
then we can vote that at
I
the
guess-
same as well.
Where all the betterments have been
Rescinded.
rescinded, is there something we need to look at in a more detailed fashion in regards to the current situation from where we were, where the 50-50 thing doesn't really
Yes.
apply, where the construction's starting to take in,
So unfortunately, if we go consecutive, it makes things a lot cleaner.
Okay.
We own, we operate, customers don't have to come to us, pay one fee, go to Southbridge, pay another fee. Your fee may change if we're consecutive versus if you decide to assess one now on top of what Southbridge is assessing as well. Now, we can assess one, we can create one now that we assess, whether it's, again, privilege fee. You do privilege fees for sewer. In the sewer bylaws, it's called a system development charge. It seems to be what we're allowed to, assess for parcels that weren't charged a betterment, which makes sense. However, the nice thing about the privilege fee is you can allow them to take it over 10, 15, 20 years and make money on that, because we charge interest. So it's a revenue producer if you decide to keep going that way. Now, do you want to do the same thing for water? Do you want to do and the privilege fee has its own anomalies and kind of tough things to process through the assessor's office and the town collector and all that, because when those monies
Gotta be
come in,
recorded.
recording's the easy part. When that money gets paid, there's no differential, there's no special place for them to input privilege fees. It just comes in as a payment, and it kind of gets lost. And it may just show up as retained earnings if they don't track it correctly. So they either see revenue or they see betterment payments. There's nothing for them to see privilege fees.
Well, we need to work with them to make sure that when they receive this payment, that they put it in the right column.
And
Because what
that-
you're telling me,
Yes.
it now goes in a bucket with everything else. It needs to have its own separate bucket, so that it gets identified and accounted.
So the privilege fee creates an added level of oversight required. If you keep it as a system development fee, it's a project cost for the developer, they have to pay it right away. We get it one lump sum, it shows up as additional revenue, which comes back as retained earnings that we can put into our capital improvement fund each year.
And don't forget,
That,
We
we can
ha-
put that into an account that creates.
we have no
interest.
other cash flow other than the percentage that we get of sales in order to replace our infrastructure. 'Cause
At this time.
Right,
Yes.
right, so I mean, it's, you know, if we're on a depreciation schedule of 2 or 3%, and we got close to 40 or 50 million dollars worth of infrastructure out there, then what's gonna happen 25, 30 years from now? Where's the fund that's gonna be available that can be used to go and make these repairs that need to be made, excuse me?
I'm not against a privilege fee for water, I just think it's something we should look at again and maybe revamp to today's situation, not a situation 5 years ago.
So I will,
And make it current moving forward.
Yeah, and get a more detailed spreadsheet, or not spreadsheet, but schedule of fees. It's something we never did.
right, so when you say schedule of fees, regarding what other towns do or what?
Whether we're going by size of service.
Okay. Instead of,
Those kind of details were never really formulated, I don't think, in any of the minutes,
okay.
you know?
So does anybody have a priority for me to put that together? Do you wanna do what other towns do, where it's based on size of service? Do you wanna stay with the EDU method that's been used for betterments? Do you want privilege fee, system development charge?
Well, is it smart to mirror what Southbridge does?
So Southbridge's
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Southbridge's connection fee includes the meter, MXU, installation of the meter and inspections. So because it doesn't, it seems, that, again, we're not, it depends what what our purpose of this fee is. Right now, if we're gonna piggyback Southbridge, then possibly, yes, maybe we mirror it or we give a little bit of a discount. If we're gonna go consecutive, then we need to increase that so it covers, if we're gonna supply the meter, MXU inspection and stuff like that, then we need to increase that fee so that.
Yeah, we gotta think about now,
Right.
we're not consecutive.
Okay, so I will focus on right now.
Don't you agree? I mean,
Yes.
instead of,
Yeah, that's fine. So right now, we're gonna look, so Southbridge's fees are in place. Is there a preference between privilege fee, system development charge, what you wanna call it? Because we're gonna have to add this to our bylaws, cause our water bylaws are not as robust when it comes to this as the sewer ones are. So to truly cover ourselves, like I said, the system development fee is in our sewer bylaws, it's not in our water bylaws.
Well, we have to make the change to the bylaw and figure out what's best to work hand in hand with where the money comes into the town, so that it
The
is
system
accounted
development fee is easy.
correctly.
The system development fee
Because
is
it's
easier to
consistent.
track, easier to see. However, it doesn't allow the developer to, I guess, they have to finance that as a project cost on their own outside versus financing it through the town as a payment over 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, whatever they decide.
where privilege fee they can finance for the town.
Yes,
Okay. Well,
So
then
that
we
would be
just
the way to go.
stick with that then.
the privilege fee?
Yeah, if something that's more streamlined through the process.
Less painful.
Right. And we'd get the interest, right?
Yes. So it's a nice added revenue source.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
but it goes into a pot or a bucket to where those funds can be used for the repairs that are
Yes.
going to be needed
Yes.
at a future time. Because we have no way right now of funding that.
Well, we do.
It's minimal though,
What do you mean?
as far as the dollars to go and fund repairs and replacement
Well,
of
Part
infrastructure.
of your ExxonMobil settlement, you created that fund that has a decent amount in it to fund capital improvements.
They're gonna do $30 million worth of improvements here in the next year and a half. Exxon didn't give us $30 million to put in the bank for a rainy day fund. That's what I'm saying, is it's just like depreciation.
I don't think you'll find many municipalities.
Well,
that
they
have
need
that
to,
type of
no,
reserve.
because they don't, maybe because they're not thinking, but,
Yeah.
you know, because they have that special, say of, let's go to town meeting and get it and just add it to your taxes.
Okay, so we'll stay consistent with the privilege fee, and maybe I'll look at, if there's no objection, maybe reducing Southbridge's fees by 75% and see what that looks like. Seeing we don't have the cost of the meter, or, I mean, we do inspect the work, but we don't, Southbridge installs the meter and the MXU, so I'll put that together. And then I'll check with, Robin and see what we may need to do for language if we need to reserve a spot on the warrant for the annual town meeting. If we need to add anything, just to get that placeholder in as well.
Well, either that, or we just put an article in the town meeting. Because that's what we're doing. Peter, we just put an article on the warrant.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I said.
okay, well,
There's isn't, right?
Well, again, we don't have to go through a gatekeeper to do it. What we do is we just,
It's their warrant,
Yeah.
they post it.
yeah, and you hand it in and say, these are the articles we want on the, on the town meeting, period.
Anything else you want me to consider? All right. Great.
Time to move on.
At the last meeting, we discussed 42 J. Hammond Road for a sewer privilege fee. The fact that it was missed where it wasn't voted and signed as a new privilege fee, so it was never put on as a lien. So Sue reached out to the homeowner, let him know that we were gonna be talking, that it was missed and that, I think he was aware of it. Told him that we were gonna be talking about it tonight, and he said he didn't see a need for him to be here, so, just to let you know that you're not doing it behind his back, so if you would, if you could vote to assess that, it's 42 J. Hammond Road, it's map 19, block B, parcel 1.5. The $8,200 privilege fee for a new sewer connection. That would be great, and then I'll process the paperwork with the Board of Assessors.
So moved.
You need an actual motion?
No, I think so moved references what I said,
Okay.
so that should be fine. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote.
So you're all set?
Aye.
Just sign both pages.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Have that signed before we vote.
All right, consecutive water supply. I am still kicking this can down the road. I believe it still may be a possibility. Whether or not we may have to consider having different rates than Southbridge for certain levels of customers in Charlton is something we're gonna have to discuss. But what I did was I've been meeting with Heather Blakely and Steve Gregoire at Southbridge for the last, say, 5 months, maybe once a month about this, and talking about, you know, reviewing the budget that was created from the last water rate study and going over it to make sure I didn't miss anything. And we caught a few things that needed to be added, which changed the budget and stuff like that. And there is a possibility of movement from Southbridge on what our base rate will be. So, to establish what we need to see for a reduction in base rate and what, to play with the numbers, I think we need the Abrahams Group to get back involved. So, I had a meeting with Heather, Steve Gregoire, Mark and Matt Abrahams on Friday to talk about, just so all three of us were in the same room, so Mark and Matt knew exactly what both sides were looking for. And they're gonna create a proposal to look at bridging the gap and how that can be done, and get us a cost proposal to do that. So that I think the Abrahams Group has worked with Southbridge before, so Southbridge is comfortable with them as well, so it's not just us going to them saying, we need a 30% reduction in your base rate so we can afford to do this. It'll be a full study, it'll be documented with what the Abrahams Group will put together. The numbers will actually have meaning, and Southbridge will participate in this exercise, so the numbers will be real. So that whatever reduction in rate we're looking for can be easily justified. Heather can take that to the town manager and then to the Southbridge Town Council for approval. And you can see what we need to do for numbers as well, if you truly wanna go consecutive at that time, what that true cost will be. So right now, I'm just waiting on that proposal from the Abrahams Group. Conceptually thinking, we will probably not be ready to go consecutive until July 1st of 2020, which would be the start of fiscal year 21. So we still have 15, 16 months to work through this, but I don't want to wait until we're in next January saying, well, we might want to do it in July. So hopefully Mark and Matt will get me that proposal for either our next meeting or our second meeting in February for you to consider. We still have some money sitting inside in a couple of grants that we can use to fund that if the price is reasonable and you want to continue to move forward and see how those numbers work out. So I will hopefully have that proposal for you in the next 2 meetings to consider.
Peter, if I may ask, is, Abrams is getting involved by whose request?
Mine,
Because why?
because he has all the initial numbers and did the initial work for our previous water rate study. So he has all of the,
Executive session tonight.
he has everything
Well, you
that-
might have that, but the thing is if I'm Southbridge,
First,
I don't care what Abraham says, I know what I wanna get for my water. So is he gonna dictate to them what they should be charging us? Or are we hiring him as a negotiator?
I would like to hire him as an independent, not an arbitrator, but someone who has the ability to manipulate the numbers and stand behind what he presents to us to both sides. So that way there, it's common ground and we can kind of move forward that way. He is,
I see this more as a tool for Ms. Blakely and Mr. Gregoire to go back to their council and say, look, this is what we came up with. We also had the aid of this profession. And he said, this is why we can do it for this amount of money.
I think it helps us make our case more easily because it gives them the backup that they need to convince the council exactly what we need to do.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
So, yeah, yes.
And we're footing the bill for it. But we would.
Not yet.
If
Not yet.
we will
haven't approved
benefit.
it.
Yes,
All right,
the
let's-
work is for our
Let's see what he
benefit.
quotes us, let's see what he.
I believe the work is for our benefit.
Yeah.
If you wanna go, if you wanna continue to discuss going consecutive, I think this is the best way to move it forward to give us the best chance of success. We can
Provided the price is reasonable.
provide, well, it's gonna come down, again, I think in looking at what they do for work, they're gonna figure out how many hours they feel they have to invest to work through the numbers and give us a cost to do that. And if it seems reasonable, then we can move forward, and if it doesn't, we can talk to them about why it doesn't seem reasonable.
We've been asking this question for years. What's the rate?
The initial response is their base rate, flat fee of their base rate. We can't afford to do it at that, so now we have to negotiate that down, and we have to give them, we've been told what the rate is. We can't afford to do it at that rate.
We can
So
only
now we
gain
have to
if
justify the reduction that we're requesting.
Superintendent report?
Okay, Berry Corner Road, construction is halted for the winter season. Wednesday, February 6th, there's gonna be a meeting at 7 PM in the senior center for all the residents in that area. Ty and Bond is gonna be holding that meeting. Just to get everyone back up to speed because they're gonna start doing their service connections in the spring. They've been out, they've marked some of the trees that need to come down in order to get the service connections to where they were drawn on paper. So what happened in the past is, Ty and Bond had a meeting with the residents. Piece of paper, they drew the square where the house was, where the driveway was, where the water line's going, where the septic is, and they drew on that paper where they wanted their water service connection to come into the house based on various reasons. Since then, Ludlow has gone out, they've marked the trees that need to come down. Just wanna make sure that the residents know which trees are coming down and why, so that someone doesn't lose their prized 100-year oak tree and get upset in the future because of that. And also to let them know that you can't, it may be a 10-foot swath of trees coming down because you can't just dig a 2-foot wide trench. You need the machine to get through there as well to dig that trench. So that meeting is Wednesday, February 6th in the senior center. Just to review that, again, hopefully all the residents will show up if they have questions, get them back up to speed on what's going on and make sure that there's no surprises come the spring and nobody gets too upset about what happens.
2/6
Yep.
at 6:30.
7
Plus 7.
in the senior center. Route 169 pump station, RH White has the site work about 90% complete. Everything's pretty much to rough grade, compacted, ready to go. The prefab concrete building is done, and they're just waiting for the pump skid to be built and delivered. They're trying to work with the builder of the pump skid to determine if they're gonna send the pumps to the United, where the building was built and install them there and deliver it as one piece, or just bring them here and try and put them in Kleinfelder's working with them on that.
Is there a pair of doors too, where you got a 4 or 5 foot opening?
Yeah, there's a garage door at the end of the building where they could
So-
put it through. There's supposed to be, the pump skid is supposed to be being built, and we're supposed to be off, I'm not sure, RH White hasn't been able to tell us where Gould Pumps is building it, but they are supposed to offer us a visit to see it test run before they deliver it, so I don't know if anyone's interested in that, but I will let you know when that takes place. The anticipated delivery is the end of March into April. RH White is also 90% complete with the tank mixer and SCADA upgrades at the Mass Ave tank and the J. Hammond Road tank sites. And they've also pretty much completed the SCADA upgrade at the sewer treatment plant. So we'll be able to get real-time data. We won't have any control, but we'll get to see the data of the pump station and the tank level in town. And the last item on that pump station contract is for the SCADA upgrade at the Charlton Water Tank on Route 20, which they're gonna be starting depending on weather. So the mixer's already installed there, they just have to install the SCADA to let us know about it. The school loop, construction on the school loop is also stopped for the winter. They're still talking about doing that large-scale 6-foot culvert on Old Worcester Road. They were talking about doing it at February vacation while school was off so they could close the road without impacting the buses. The weather doesn't seem like it's gonna cooperate. Jerry had some concerns with them closing that road if a big storm came, and then that 1 week job would turn into 2 weeks or 3 weeks because they're fighting snow and frost and everything, so. They're still gonna watch weather and talk to Jerry a little more and determine if February is the best time. If not, they're gonna possibly do it April vacation, when school's closed, close the road. But then that's gonna bring up the problem of bypassing, that's a pretty large scale stream, of bypassing that stream up and over the road, so. That portion is up in the air right now. I'm not sure, we haven't had a progress meeting since they've stopped, so I'm not sure when they're planning on coming back. They're still playing the weather, they say they wanna be working, but again, we'll see what happens, probably a couple weeks into February, see where the weather goes and what Jerry determines. Buffinville, we'll be discussing that property in executive session. Training, there'll be an open meeting law training on next Tuesday, February 5th at 6 p.m. in this room, if anyone's interested. The annual report, I'm starting to work on the annual report for 2018. It's due March 1st. If there's any specific information you'd like me to add, let me know, and I'll get it in there to start. But I'll also be sending it to you for review as I work on it. Last Friday, Steve and I went out up on the Carpenter Hill Road. I know we've been talking about I&I and popping manhole covers. So Saturday morning, we missed the rain event on Thursday. Friday morning, we went out probably about 9 o'clock, popped some manhole covers from, say, the farm north down to Route 20. Starting at the farm, which pretty much is pretty dedicated to Carl Storz, there was minimal to no flow. As we worked our way towards Route 20, the specifically clear water flow increased, but not excessive at that time. So whatever, and again, the plant normalized, so I guess we wouldn't really see the amount of I&I we would have seen that during the storm event. So, but we did see some clear water, so there's probably some sump pumps running into that line at this time. So, moving forward, and again, based on the report, I read the findings of the report again today from the flow monitoring study, and Carpenter Hill Road saw the biggest increase from rain events. But it also said it marginalized and came back to normal rather quickly. So, we're participating in the MVP action grant, and we just had a conference call on that today. So part of that is grants provided to municipalities for water sewer based on climate change and impacts. Because of what claim it, increased storms, high groundwater from those storms, from climate change, based on what we found from the I&I study, I asked them today when the next round of grant funding comes out to let me know we can take the results from that study and try and come up with a cost to do further exploration, whether we do the the clean the lines and camera, whatever that cost is, put that into a grant for the next round of grant funding from that MVP grant, to really get up into that portion of the line and see what's going on. And then the other portion, the other quadrant of the flow monitor study, I believe was, it was 50, it was a bigger quadrant, maybe 45,000 feet of line that had the second largest impact from the rain events, but it also marginalized quickly and returned to normal quickly. So figure out how we need to break that quadrant down to do further analysis to try and pinpoint where the INI is coming from. Group that into one application to the grant funding to get us through that for our next round of INI
How
exploration.
long of a distance is this we're talking?
Carpenter Hill Road is not far, I'm gonna say half a mile
Half a mile?
for Carpenter Hill Road. So I think, I asked Paul Rodman for a cost to clean and camera that part of the line. I think he said it was maybe around $6,000.
Don't we have money with Veolia to do?
They have a set amount annual to do some camera, but not to clean. So because we're into the new year, I think,
It's all PVC up there, right?
yes.
Have them drop the camera and run it down.
Yeah. Then clean it if it needs to be cleaned.
It may not, be, there's probably not much grease or anything up there.
None, shouldn't be any.
So
Well,
a couple days after the storm, have them drop the camera in and run it down. It's not gonna take more than a morning to do it, and that's gonna pick up any services that got heavy flow or any defects in the pipe. 2,500 feet of pipe isn't that much to do.
Peter, are there any homes on that line? Did any of those homes connect?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
A whole bunch of them.
The line that, Stewart's paid for?
No,
No.
no, but I didn't go, so I started at the farm and went down towards Route 20.
I think I
Okay.
think there is 2 or 3 that connected onto
Well,
the
regardless, it
Stewart's
doesn't
line.
matter.
Okay, so we're
Lower than
talking about
this.
a line that's got some age to it, 10, 12 years old?
Yes. We did not do the stores extension, the stores part of the line we did not do.
Okay.
Because we popped that manhole cover halfway up
It seemed-
and it was dry, so we didn't bother going
That's right,
towards
you don't
stores.
need to go,
So we went down
Yeah.
towards Route 20,
okay.
and the flow just kinda increased as we went down.
The only issue with the Stewart's line is that when we had the problem with the dams, they did say they found debris,
Yes, so
pipe debris.
when we had the sinkholes, because the dams were plugged, the release from the clay dams were plugged up, we sent the camera up there first to make sure that there was no break in the line. And at that point is where Paul said that they saw debris.
A push
in those
cam or
portions.
or
No,
a
they're
tractor?
big cam, they're track cam. Cause that was while they were there doing the flow they were kinda in the area setting up the flow monitoring tests. So they went up at that same time. But I'll talk to them, about again, so it's December 1st, January 1st, we use this year's camera allotment. Last year, we traded the camera allotment for a GIS work as part of that full,
Right.
evaluation that they did. So this year, I'll ask them to just see, again, figure out what that amount is, make
If
sure
you
it's
find the
enough.
critical, I mean, I know a lot of, part of the system is those stupid 2-inch lines, but where you can get a camera into the gravity.
Yeah, that'll be all gravity, so you should be able to get up there and see what's going on. In my discussions with John Oatley and Paul and that, though, they kept saying, clean them first and then camera, but. That's it for my superintendent report, unless there's any other questions.
It's getting late.
Good.
I got about 10 questions, but that's okay. Oh, before you go in, the Bay Path pump station and the Masonic Home pump station, what's going on there?
They're out for bid,
They're up for bid,
yes.
okay.
They're 100% designed, they are out for bid.
Okay,
In speaking with timing, they're hoping to have those pump stations up and running by the end of this calendar year. Which, seeing how long it took them to do the Route 169 pump station seems aggressive, but if it happens, it happens. And that,
these pump stations are mini compared to those.
understood.
Yeah, yeah,
In different weather conditions, they'll be.
yeah.
So. No, the Overlook pump station's a priority, because that's
Yeah.
That's a necessity if you're gonna go consecutive. Okay, so, if there's not anything else, we can go into executive session.
We're going to discuss the purchase of property on Gale Road. The chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on a negotiating position of the public body. Does someone want to read the executive session part of it?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we go into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, C-30A, Section 21A, number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate. If the chair declares
Chair
that
has
an
so
open
declared.
meeting may have a detrimental effect on negotiation position of the public body.
The chair has so declared, and the board will come out of executive session solely for the purpose of adjourning.
Lemansky, aye.
Is there a second? Sorry.
Second.
Lemansky, aye.
Mackenzie, aye.
Gagner, aye.
Jennings, aye.
Harwich Vaughan, aye.